So right now we're gonna have a talk about scale with ease, multi-site setups with Plone by Timo Steinwalk.
Yes.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you guys.
Oh, great start. Hello. Huh? What? Oh, so can I start over again? So, hello. PloneConf is amazing. Brazil is amazing. We have talks that are really an inspiration. The Interlagos talk, government Brazil talk, and every single time I hate that I have to choose a talk because there are so many, and there are always like two talks that I really want to go, and I have to choose. So after PloneConf, I will definitely catch up. One of the talks that I saw yesterday were from Riku Pekka. Where are you? You promised. Riku Pekka, great talk. Thanks again. He compared Plone with Drupal editing experience, so thanks for that. I have to admit I was a little bit shocked by the UI because I thought that they would make a bit more progress lately. We occasionally look at other CMSs and see what they do, and often they do quite cool stuff, right? And we see what we can pick up. But apart from that, one thing that shocked me even a bit more was that Riku Pekka said that you can give permissions only on the content type level and not on the content object level, right? And this really made me think that, like, okay, is that really possible that they have this limitation? I'm just guessing here, right, that the reason is impedance mismatch, right? That you have this problem that if you have a hierarchical tree-like structure or object-oriented structure, like we do in websites and intranets, and you have a relational database, then it does not match, right? And it could be that this is the reason. There are scientific papers about it. I won't go into details here. But we have something that's pretty amazing, actually. And sorry for mentioning here ZOP and ancient technology, but ZOP stands for ZOP Object Publishing Environment. And this is really what it does, right? So if you have a URL, it cuts the URL in pieces, and then at the end of the process, looks up that object in an object database, right? So everything is a tree, and I always thought that this is really a beauty of the system because it's so much simpler, right? This is really a good match, in my opinion, for the use case that we're solving, right? We have websites with hierarchical structures, we have intranets, hierarchical structures, and we have this object publishing environment that supports that use case quite well, right? And that makes our life a lot easier many times, right? And we often forget that. So I wanted to mention that. Another thing that we have that's nice, who knows about the iNavigation route? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a marker interface that basically said that can be applied to anywhere on a website, on any page, right, that you have, and it says basically I'm a navigation route, so the navigation starts here, right? So you can create a subsite. So Plone actually brings everything that you can create multiple subsites within an existing site, right? So the infrastructure is already in the core and it's prepared there. And this is really something, this is another superpower that we actually have, like in our code base, right? This unique combination of an object database that fits well the hierarchical data structure of websites and intranets, and the permission structure that we have in there that inherits from the parent object, right? And that solves so many use cases, both in internet, if you have workspaces, you want to collaborate together, or on websites, right? Especially when it comes to large organization. It's so easy to give certain users permission on a subtree on a website, right? I said that in my other talk as well, if you have large organizations and you want to give permissions there. And this is really something that's unique. I worked for quite a few years as consultant for Django, for Python companies, right? And I saw them how they are struggling with this problem. This is really, really hard outside of Plone, right? So this is really a superpower that we have. And I want to show you today how we use these superpowers to solve a problem. The problem is the multi-site setup. So think about that you have that you want to run multiple sites, right? And lots of them. The first time I got introduced to that problem, as you will, was 2009. I met Victor and Ramon there. I spent 2 years in Barcelona, did my Google Summer of Code. And I got a job at the UPC, Barcelona Tech University, because Victor and Ramon were working there, and Ramon tricked me into working there, right? And they did amazing stuff there, right? They had their own social media platform that they built, right? That was really in the early days, and they used the JavaScript framework, and they were really early adopters of that stuff. They had a video platform, an internal platform, and lots of other things that were really amazing at that time, right? And they also had GenWeb. That's a site generator, a one-click solution to create websites. So an institute at UPC could just go there and say, hey, I want a new website, right? And then they would fill out a form, like click, and the website is there, right? With everything wired and everything was working. And that was amazing to me. And this is the reason why UPC still runs one of the largest Plone clusters in Europe. I think they have still around like 500 to 600 sites there, right? Because one click and you can just create it, right? So it's just more an organizational problem than a technical problem. You can create new websites in a really easy way. So today I will present 3 use cases where we had this multi-site setup problem. So first is the Forschungszentrum Jülich, that translates to Jülich Research Center. They have around more than 8,000, maybe even 9,000 employees by now. It's one of the largest research institutions in the European Union. They have a Nobel Prize winner, Peter Grunberg, and an annual revenue of almost 1 billion euros per year. So this is their public website. And in addition to the public website, they have, you can see here, this is the fat menu, but it's only a part, so the fat menu needs to scroll. That's actually really usability. That's really hard to solve when it comes to usability. We did our best. So they have 11 institute areas or institute clusters and more than 80 institutes. It might be that they even have 100 now. Last time I checked, I think they had even over 100. So they have lots of institute clusters and institutes, right, that you see here. And every institute area and cluster needs their own website. On top of that, they have a career website and 50 additional organizational units and other subsites that they need to create, right? And on top of that, when we did the relaunch for them, they sent us a spreadsheet with more than 500 project websites, right? So they had really hundreds of websites that they need to run. So I will briefly go through the different use cases. So you saw the portal, right? This is an institute website. So roughly the same header. It has its own iNavigation route. It has its own header, right? It says the institute there, not the main portal. It has its own navigation, its own footer, its own search, and its own permission and groups there, right? I would like to briefly show how you can create such a subsite. You go to you create just as a regular site, right? And you have the blogs chooser here, so you can choose a new blog and then create a website, choose different stylings here. Let's see if I can fast forward that. No, I can't. Okay, so it's really easy to create a new site. Here you see an institute cluster website. It's really slightly different. You see on top of the title, there's the institute cluster, right? So this shows that you can go to the institute cluster, but the rest is as same as an institute. Here you have an example of one of the business unit websites, right? Like roughly 50. They have the same CD and header like the institute and the portal. They have a subsite on the right menu, so that's a special thing, and their own logo, navigation, breadcrumb, translations, of course. All sites are multilingual, right? Of course, and their own search. This is the website of a research group. They have between 200 and 250 research groups. That's actually technically not a subsite. It's just a page, right? It's just a subpage. So that's a really simple use case, but still it's kind of a landing page, but as said, not with its own navigation. So this is one of the most simple use cases. And the same is true for project websites. I think they have a couple of hundreds or even thousands of project websites, also no subsite, simple page, right? But still worth mentioning. So the subsite approach is basically having the iNavigation route and then the subsite of the different flavors that I just showed you have their own navigation, their own header, their own footer, and it depends on the use case that you have, right? If you're an institute or an institute cluster or a career website, then the look and feel is slightly different, right? And this is what we do as integrators. So what's the trade-off here when you go with this sub-site approach and the iNavigation route approach? The advantages are those sub-sites are really easy to maintain, because you might have hundreds of websites, but you have one Zope instance, one Plone instance that you need to run, right? That's it. So it's easy to maintain. It's actually easy to scale. We were surprised how scalable this solution is. It's pretty user-friendly. I showed you that with like a few clicks, you can create a new sub-site, right? So it's really easy. You can still like have permissions there that not everybody can create a sub-site, right? Because on an organization level, you need to handle that, but technically it's super easy and it's really scalable. However, there are two limitations of the sub-site use case. One limitation is, and that's important for our clients, is external contributors, right? If you have a large organization with 8,000, 10,000 people, and you have lots of projects, they have often joint projects with other universities, with other research institutions, and then they need to work with external people that might contribute to that website, but they're not allowed in their Active Directory LDAP, right? Because that would blow up their Active Directory and LDAP, right? So, and they can't give them permissions, right? Also because of security reasons, right? So this is one of the limitations that you have with this lightweight sub-site approach. The second is that you can't have your own domain. That's a technical problem right now that we're going to solve soonish. We're working on this. There's a plip for this already, but this is currently one of the limitations. So, but those are the two only limitations. So what if you actually have this use case and this limitation that you want to have external people on your website and you have your own domain, right? Because that's a use case that those large organizations all have, right? So for FZJ, we created a second solution. That's kind of the big gun, right? A website generator, roughly like the Gen Web idea, right? That you can still create a website within 3 minutes, but it's a full Plone site, right? So you have the Zope application server and you have multiple Plone sites within that, right? So this is one of those subsites that you create, and every subsite has a control panel where you can configure that. Because like think about a project website. A project website usually shouldn't look and feel like the main website, right? So if the research institution Jülich joins up with DLR and with 2 other research organizations, they don't want it to look like Jülich Research Institution, right? So you want to change the look and feel. So you can upload another image. You can change the colors here. You can change links in the footer. And here you can change the logos of the project partners, right? And usually you have one of the ministries in Germany that fund the entire thing, right? So this is basically what it is the control panel. And this was the solution for this spreadsheet with 500 websites that we carried over for the old system. So for Forschungszentrum Jülich, we create those two solutions: the lightweight sub-site approach for the couple of hundred websites, and the website generator for the Plone instances. You can even go further if you want, right? Because the screencast that I just showed you has roughly still the same look and feel as the main portal site. You can change the colors, the fonts, the header, the footer and stuff, but not fundamentally change a site. And sometimes projects want to be really, really distinctive, right? They have a good funding and they want to be really distinctive, right? And Jülich Research Institution or DLR should just be like one of the logos in the footer. So you remember maybe the slide from the Forschungszentrum Jülich main website, right? This is actually one of the projects that we run on the same infrastructure, but that looks completely different, right? So it has its own logo. It has every block looks different, right? It has a different styling, completely different layout. You have no clue that this is actually, that Jülich is included here, except for the logo in the footer, right? And what you can do if you want to have a complete different website is you can create your own front end. I mean, that's the beauty of the new architecture with the Volto front end and a Plone backend. So you create your Plone website, and then you just fire up a Docker container with your own front end project, and you put that in front of the thing. So you can still maintain the infrastructure that's easy to maintain. And if you have 500 website and one example, then you just need one additional Docker container and you can maintain it, right? Even another agency can do that project. That's also really important to be scalable, right? So that's super, super flexible and that's super helpful. Actually, our website generator seems to be so good that they didn't need that. Actually, this was the only project that we did so far. So business-wise, that might not be a good decision actually to hand over that to the client. But yeah, maybe we make bad business decisions. No, we don't. But yeah, I mean that's cool. I like that when clients actually don't need us any longer, right? I mean that's like I'm happy then. Okay, so that was Forschungszentrum Jülich. The second project that I want to present to you is one that we finished last year. It's the German Aerospace Center. It's a bit larger than Forschungszentrum Jülich. Actually, they have 10,000 employees, 55 institutes, 30 locations, 4 foreign offices, and an annual budget altogether almost 2 billion euros per year. So this is their main portal that we built also with Plone 6 and Volto. Then they have, as said, 60 institute websites. The only difference to the main portal is you see the blue line above here that links to the main DLR portal. And then the logo says basically the institute, right? This is their corporate design. And it's very, very limited in terms of like what institutes can do actually, right? So there are different trade-offs depending on the organization you have. Some are more strict, others are more open, right? But we implement the CMS exactly in the way that this organization works. So this is another subsite, the German Space Agency, also a subsite. And this is a huge organization, as you can imagine, right? So this is the German Space Agency. But they run on this subsite infrastructure, actually, right? So we have quite big institutes there. We have the Projektträger. Those are the people that have all the money, right? They also have a subsite, own header, own footer, own contact form, but still under the DLR main domain, right? We have the career portal, also under the main DLR domain. The career portal actually has a completely different look and feel. So if you go back, you see here this flag on the left side, right? This is the teaser slider block. And if you see here, it's completely different. And the entire look and feel of the site is actually different, right? So every block looks different. I mean, not every block, but 80% of the blocks just have a different look and feel. And we did that with a subsite, right? With CSS classes that apply here. So the block system is incredibly flexible for this. So you see that here, the comparison. On the left side, you see the main portal. On the right side, you see the career portal. And you see the teaser slider block looks completely different. The teaser grid blocks on the left side look different. So you can push that pretty far. So you see here, this is actually the teaser grid block. So on the left side for the career portal, they want a magazine-like look and feel where they have pictures and then they put text over the pictures. That looks pretty. The downside is just if you have long titles, that could cause problems. And it's a German organization, so we have long titles, right? So for the career portal, that's exactly the right thing because they want to reach out to young people and want to be like the hip part of it, right? But for the heavy lifting, for the institute with the long German names, we need something that's more simple, right? And more robust as well. So you can do that. You can do that trade-off. And this is an example where we push it even further. This is DLR School Lab. That's a great initiative, by the way. So those are like research institutions that are open for school pupils, and they invite them and they can come and learn about all the cool stuff that DLR does, right? So, but this is targeted at young people, right? So they wanted to have a complete different look and feel. So they choose this black overall design, right? And this is really also like completely different, still like the DLR logo and stuff, right? But they want to, even though they're under the DLR main domain, so it's DLR.de/School Lab, right? So it's still under the same domain, but they wanted a complete different look and feel. Also a few custom blocks, which you can also do, right? So the new structure of Volto and Plone 6 allows you to give blocks only to certain sub pages, to subsites. Um, so I will show you here how easy it is to create a subsite. So you go to the plus menu, you create a new subsite like a page. Ooh, crap. Okay, so you go to the content menu, you create a new institute. Let's call it Institute for Future Fuels. And then on the right side, you can choose basically the look and feel. All the options that we have there, you can choose, right? So we use a light blue here, and you can also enter the name for the logo. You can't upload your own logo because it's because the corporate design doesn't allow that. The logos all look the same. It's just the words that you can change. And now we add a teaser slider block here, right? And we change. So we save. Sorry. So that's a really simple site. So you see the blue line on the top, and you have your institute site. You can add pages there to have the navigation, so as any other page. And now we change it to the school lab design, right? The dark mode design. And we change it, and there it is, right? Complete different look and feel, and you can choose it. So this is really, really powerful. So we pushed this subsite approach very, very far, farther than I could have imagined, and it's far more scalable than we thought, right? We always thought that, okay, you can do it for 50 subsites, for 100, for a few hundred, but not for like that many that we actually have, right? So that was very, very good. So scalability is really not an issue with the subsite approach. So Victor, Dante, Erico, David, and the entire team of Kit Concept did a fantastic work here to make that happen, right? As said earlier, the only limitation that this subsite approach has is that if you need your own data, own user database, and your own domain, and we will solve the second problem. I will only very briefly talk about search because that would take too long. But if you have a website with hundreds of subsites and institute, you need a powerful search. We use Solar, and what we do is when you have if you have an institute or the portal, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you have those options here that you can choose if you want to search everywhere, all the subsites and the portal, or if you want to search only in a specific subsite, right? So you can switch between. So if you search for quantum computing, for instance, and the institute does not have any information about that, you can switch to the main portal or everywhere and can search the entire website, right? So, but that's enough for a separate talk. Okay, so those were two use cases of very, very large projects. The third project that I want to present to you is the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. They're a lot smaller than DLR or SZJ, but still they have the use case that every now and then they have project websites, and so far they use Plone for their main website, and so far they set up a new Plone instance for every project website, right? And that's lots of work, right? And they only have a few IT people, so they thought about, okay, how can we make that easier, right? How can we make it easier? I will show you a solution that we built for them and that we plan to open source. So they did a tender and they asked the companies that pitched there to open source the solution, which is great, right? So we love that. So we're currently building that. And I will show you a use case. This is the exact project website. It's not a Plone website. DLR is one of the project partners. I randomly choose like a website that I found on the web, right, to show how easy it is to basically create such a project website. And I will show you that. The base for that is Volto Light Theme. We had multiple talks about that. Dante gave 2 talks, one about Volto Light Theme, one about the Blocks Model 3. So Volto Light Theme at Kit Concept is our workhorse that we use everywhere. Hi, Victor. So base is Volto Light Theme. And we want to create the exact website, right? So we go there, and you can see that we have a new tab here that says Plone site. Not sure if you can see it. And you can upload your own logo, right? Because we want it to be generic, so we upload the exact logo. We save, and you'll see there's the exact logo, right? Easy. Now we want to like apply the colors, because you see the exact logo has those 2 blue colors, right? So you see here, that you have different options, different color options, right? So you can change the color of the navigation, for instance, right? So let's change the color of the navigation. You can use this nice chooser there, and you see it even live, right? You see that, maybe you see it, that it turned red. Now we use blue, but we see, okay, the fat menu might not have the right color yet. It uses the gray that Volto Light theme has, right? This is why it's called Volto Light theme, because we use gray and colors that basically you can use for everything, but we want a bit more look and feel like the exact website, right? So we choose the blue from the logo for the fat menu, so it's applied there. And the last thing that we want to change is now the footer color. And every color is there in like 2 flavors. We always have a text. We have a text color and a background color, or a foreground and background color, if you want to call it that, right? So every color needs to be there twice, because we need to make sure that it's accessible and readable. Another thing that you need is, if you remember the doormat functionality where you could edit, it was an add-on for Plone where you could edit actually the footer links. That's also pretty useful, so we added that here. So you can add any number of footer links, and you can choose, you can move them around via drag and drop. And usually you have your own footer links, right? So we add the footer links here. We add a link to one of the pages. Here we add a new thing. I can't see that. Is that about us? No, what was the, sorry, yeah, that was about us. So you go to the About Us side. One other use case for this project website is that you have organizations that fund that, right? That's always the case. So we wanted to bake that in as well. So you can choose an arbitrary number of logos here that will appear in the footer. That's actually the funding partners. So we have a folder here with the logos. I'm sorry for being boring here. I choose German government agencies. Their logos all look the same, but they're different actually, I promise. So you can add them here, right? You can drag and drop them around. And this is what you get. In the screencast, I forgot to add the image with that nice plane. But this is the Volto Light theme site that I created within like 2 minutes now, right? And this is the original. So here you can see like the difference. I mean, it's up to you to choose which one you think is prettier. That's not really the issue here. I wanted to show you how fast you can create such a project website, because that's important. Because not every project is well funded. Sometimes they apply for grants and they don't have much money, but they need a website up there, right? And then they need a website with a few clicks. They can't invest like 10K or something for an agency to create a website, right? They just don't have the budget. I mean, some projects do, but most of them, they don't have that, right? Because this is how research works, at least in Germany, and I guess around the world as well. So all we learned in those 3 projects, and the first 2 projects were really big projects where we worked years on those projects, right? And we put lots of effort into that. And we were really happy that the Potsdam Institute came to us and wanted us to open source that, or paid us to open source that, because we wanted to do that anyways, to be honest, but we were too busy for that, right? So we love those kind of projects. So we will finish that project in the first quarter of 2024. As always, we will try to push as many things to core as possible. Is Eriko here, our friend? So, no, he isn't. So when we had the first idea, we thought about like, okay, which approach are we going to take, right? The subsite approach or the approach with the separate website, because both have their merits, right? And then Eriko came along with that idea that he says, okay, what if we use a behavior? Right? So if we use a behavior, we can apply that behavior to a Plone website, but also to a subsite, right? And that's a brilliant idea, because that solves both use cases, right? And we can have one implementation for both use cases, actually, right? And this is what we did. And the behavior that we created, that I showed you in that screencast, that might end up in core, it might end up in an add-on product, it might end up in a distribution. We will collaborate with the Plone community as always and try to push that and see where it actually fits. But it will be open source in the first quarter of 2025. And then it's up to you to use it. Our distributions that we're working on will definitely use it because I think it's a great asset for those large organizations. And I would love to see a distribution that shows the power of Plone, because I think that's pretty unique. If we look back at Drupal, for instance, when they can't give like proper permissions even to content objects, right? Think about what happens if you try to implement something like that in Drupal, right? Or in lots of other systems. I really think that Plone is very unique in that sense, and this is a USP that we have to show to the outside world what we can do, right? And I don't think that many other CMSs on the market are able to do so. Thanks a lot.
So thank you very much, Timo. Thank you, everyone. And anyone that have any questions, just raise your hand so I can take you the mic.
Yes, thank you, Timo. That was really impressive. Actually, I don't even have a question. You already answered that you're going to open source in the beginning of next year. That's really awesome. At the university, we have built our own light site that changes the logo and changes the colors and changes the footer, but that's so much more impressive what you've done. Yeah, and we hope to help you with the product when it's open and maybe do something back to it. So yeah, really impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico-Pekka. Highly appreciate, but you can help us actually today because we are thinking about exactly like for instance, we have the technical implementation, right? That's done. That's solved, so no problem at all. But from the UX perspective, when it comes to the colors, for instance, then it becomes really opinionated, right? So the question is, we could do something. We had a look at other CMS systems, right? Like what I said earlier. We really do that, right? So I had a look at WordPress, at Gutenberg, at the WordPress page builders. How do they do that, right? How Wix does it, how Squarespace does it, right? Those like really page builders for agencies. And I wanted to see how complex it is, how complex they make it to create such a website. And every single time I was totally overwhelmed, right? They have like a bazillion of colors that you can choose, right? And even though I have 20 years of experience with web development, I'm clueless what to choose where, right? So what we're aiming for here is a really simple thing that site administrators or even IT staff can actually do, right, without design knowledge. So the same thing that we did for Volto Lighttheme or for Plone, that we don't want editors to worry about things. We also don't want site administrators to worry about choosing the right colors, and we don't want a designer to be necessary to choose the right colors, right? So this is something that we're currently discussing internally. How can we make it easy for people to understand what colors you choose? One of the things that is really helpful is that when you change the color in the sidebar, you immediately see where it changes, right? So I would love to hear your feedback on that. Maybe you want to be like we could do even user testing or A/B testing, right? And choose a random website on the web or one of your use cases and see how can you build that in 3 minutes, right? So can we choose a random person and ask that person, hey, build that website, right? And I would love to see if we can do that in a couple of minutes, right? So is that what I advertised working in real life? So if you're at the sprint, we can do that tomorrow. And I would love to hear your opinions on that to make it better, even before we open source it. And as soon as it's open source, you can also contribute.
Thank you, Timo. Amazing work. One question, if you're looking at research institutes and so on, they have a structure of institutes. If you're looking into universities, they have a structure of faculties, of departments, of institutes, and then the professors and so on. So there's sometimes a hierarchy level up to 9 levels down. So how much nested you can put those subsites, and how does it work with multilingual for certain subsites? For example, a faculty or a department for Asia studies, for Latin America studies, to have different languages they want to do their websites and then the main site.
So I will answer the second question first. So multilingual works just as everything, right? Because it's a no-brainer actually, because thanks to Plone, because Plone is great. So the subsite is a content object, right? And it's you're in a language root folder. So you have like DLRDE/DE, and then you have your institute or whatever it is, and you have the same on the English part of the tree. So you have DLRDE/EN/my institute, right? And then you combine them or you translate them, and then you have it, right? So it works, and it even works if you miss one tree, right? Because that also happens, especially for project websites, that they have that only in English. And now I forgot the first question. Nesting. Oh yeah, right, nesting. So yeah, that's an interesting topic because we have those clients that nest on up until like 9 or 10 levels or so, right? And there's this usability studies that basically say anything below 3 levels is non-existent for users, right? So subsites can actually help you to break that down a bit. So if you have 3 levels and then a subsite and another 3 levels, that gives you already like 6 levels that you have without like screwing up the user experience completely. So my advice would be like, don't go deeper than 3 levels, but we all know that that doesn't work always. For Volto Light theme, we made different like trade-offs. So we have the fat menu. So we got rid of the portal, right? The navigation portal. So we had to bring in something else. So what we did is we have the fat menu that shows 3 levels deep, right? So the upper 3 levels. And for the rest, you rely on the overview pages, basically, right? And you can do fancy things. Government agencies do that they have in the breadcrumbs, that you can even have a drop down and kind of have a secondary navigation level that allows you to nest even deeper. But that's a thing where we tell our clients, if you go deeper than 6 levels, so 3 levels portal, then 3 levels with your institutes, it's non-existent for your users. We could completely break the user experience for the 80% or 90% use cases to make this nesting possible. But it's a trade-off in the end. And the interesting thing is that some of our clients, I won't name them, but they basically said, okay, we still want the portal. So we made the portal optional actually. And then after like half a year, they came back and made the internal decision to get rid of the navigation portal again and followed our advice with a bit of delay. So that's our take on that. Not sure if that's
I can totally agree on that. Most of universities, because of their hierarchy structure, does things that are not good for the end users that actually want to do.
Yep.
One of the questions was all the subsites in it. For example, a faculty want to list all of their members, but the right profile of a professor should be within the portal of his chair of something, for example. Did you have something that you can get the data from the subsites in grouped into the overall or
yes,
the upper level?
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe I'm not sure if everybody can follow, but I can say yes, because I mean this is material for another talk. That use case is solved. We solved that for all those organizations that we have. So that's actually the beauty of the subsite approach, right? Because a subsite is nothing more than a content object that's encapsulated, right? So you can break out of that if you want with a listing block, for instance, right? So as soon as you use a listing block and you choose the path criterion and you say the path criterion is actually outside of my subsite, then bam, you have access to the entire website, to all the websites actually, right? So you can do things like on a subsite, aggregate the news for a certain topic on the portal, right? Or you can say, like, if you have a professor, like your use case is actually quite easy because you have one professor that's maybe in one institute. Like in FZJ and DLR, they often have professors that have 2 that are outside and inside the organization, right? So, and they're on multiple institutes, right? That also happens. And then you have to fetch them from somewhere. Or then you have listings actually of faculties where the university professors needs to be on top. And then you have 300 people that you want to list automatically, right? And then you need to combine actually a listing block that's based on a criteria for all the staff, but you still want the two professors up like on the top, right? And you want to choose them manually. And that all works actually, and between the subsites, right? So everything really works, and it's even user friendly, so that the users get that, because you have the listing block and the search blocks, and in 90% of the use cases they work well within their subsite, and you can break out of that. And for DLR, David did that. We also did that for vocabularies and for tags, right? So every subsite can have their own tag system, right? That's completely different from the rest. And we actually in DLR, we have the use case that you can choose either the tags and the keywords from DLR altogether, or from only your subsite, right? So it's really, really powerful. And that's the next thing that we also want to open source then, once we have the simple use case solved. We have so many like code enhancements and things that we would love to open source, and that were hard to open source so far, but thanks to the distributions, we will be able to do so actually. And I would love to work on a distributions for universities, for research institutions, because we had projects with lots of budget. We put lots of effort into it, and I would love to take all that and put that in a distribution. So if you're interested, sorry for the teasing here, but if you're interested in that use case, let's sit together on Saturday during the sprint and see what we can do there.
So anyone, any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much, Timo. Thank you, everyone. A round of applause for Timo, please.